Welcome, everyone. My name is Gina Gleason. I'm with Real Impact, and today I am here with a coalition of California organizations. We are supporting this policy that has been introduced by the Chino Valley Unified School District Board President, Sonja Shaw, and I will introduce Sonja in a moment. But for now, let me go ahead and begin by stating a few facts. Parents are attending school board meetings in droves across the country to show that despite what the education establishment thinks, children, their well-being, and upbringing are not the responsibility of the school or state, it's the responsibility of parents. This policy is simple. It's a parental notification policy that covers three main points. The policy says that parents should be notified if the student is expressing suicidal intentions, has had any significant physical injury while at school, including verbal or physical altercations, if a student is requesting to be identified or treated as a gender that does not align with the sex that is on the student's birth certificate or any other official records that accurately state the student's biological sex. Under this policy, the children will not be prohibited from identifying as his or her opposite gender while at school, whether it's using another name, dressing as the opposite gender, using the opposite gender restrooms, or playing on the opposite gender sports teams. This policy does not say that a child cannot adopt a new gender identity. It simply says that parents should know. My organization, Real Impact, commissioned a Rasmussen poll this past May. 82% of California likely voters say parents have the rights over their children, even if their child attends the public school. The poll goes on to say that 88% of those surveyed indicated that they support parental notification by school officials if their child has changed in mental conditions, like showing symptoms of depression or suicidal thoughts. The overwhelming consensus is that parents should be notified if their child is dealing with mental health challenges. When asked in the poll, do you support or oppose schools notifying parents if their child identifies or requests to be identified or treated as a gender that does not align with their biological sex, a strong majority, 69%, supported this proposition, while only a combined 24% opposed. This data clearly shows that California parents support transparency and accountable policies, making it mandatory for the school administrators to inform parents if their child is facing any of these challenges or lifestyle changes. Next, we have Sonja Shaw, President of the Chino Valley Unified School District.
Good evening, guys. Thank you for coming. I brought this policy forward because when I heard a assemblyman in Sacramento he was proposing a bill that would become law that would actually bring the parents back in the picture, I couldn't not support something like that. So I brought it to our school board to support that bill. Unfortunately, that died in Sacramento, but what I found out from that is that we can make our own policy to place safeguards to keep our children safe. And that's exactly what I wanted to do, is keep our children safe. Right now, there is different laws, which I'm not sure if you guys are following all the different bills in Sacramento. We have AB 665, we have AB 957. They're all taking parents out of the picture. I ran for school board because I was one of those parents that didn't want to be taken out of the picture. The reason why I sat here is to give parents a voice. So right now, I'm going to try to give parents a voice and an opportunity to make sure that they are part of their child's education and anything else that the school district or schools want to exit them out of. And the sad part is, it's not even the school district, so to say, but they're being bounded by these laws in Sacramento. And if we can make policies to help our children and safeguard them from these things and bring the parents in the picture and in the equation to give them the opportunity to do what's right for their kid, that's why I brought this policy forward. We worked extremely hard. It was not a reckless policy. We got a lot of input. I ran it through our district attorneys. It's not something that's illegal. It's something that's safe. It's something that I believe in. And right now, I'm hoping that, I brought it forward as information so we can hear the community. We give them a chance to come forward and give us their concerns or anything that we may be able to even make this policy even stronger and better. That's why I did that. So tonight you'll see the board, we're not able to really discuss this, but we want the input of the public. There's a reason why I did this. I wasn't trying to be divisive. I didn't bring it as a vote, even though I know as a parent and a board member that our board majority does support parents and parental rights. So I'm trying to listen to our community. And when I went door knocking as a candidate, number one issue was parental rights. Parents want to be involved. And to me, schools were never supposed to be a secret place. And right now, we're trying to make them a secret place. Parents need to be first in making those decisions for their kids, and that's why I brought this policy. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Assemblyman Bill Essayli. I am the original author of AB 1314, the parental notification policy. The reason I introduced the bill is that Sacramento is waging a war on parental rights. It has started with legislation that says that 12-year-olds and up can make independent medical decisions without their parents. And now we have false guidelines coming out from the Department of Education telling schools and teachers that they may not share information with parents unless the student provides consent. This is contrary not only to law, but also to the U.S. Constitution, where the Supreme Court has said that parents have a constitutional right to raise their kids. And I believe the policies we're proposing are common sense, and they're supported by the overwhelming majority of the public and parents. We are not outing anyone. That narrative is completely false. All the policy says is that if the school is going to actively participate in the transitioning of your child by changing their name, their pronouns, and the facilities they use, that the parent has the right to know what's happening with their kids. We know that trans youth are at higher risk for mental health issues, including depression, anxiety, and suicide. Their parents need to know about those risks. We also know, due to an NPR article that came out, that these students do better with parental involvement, not their exclusion. Every indication and data point we have says these kids do better with parental involvement than not. And so that's all we're doing today is reaffirming what already should be the case, that parents have a right to know what's happening with their kids. It's unfortunate that we even need to introduce these policies. We have to do it because the state is giving out false guidelines to school districts and telling them that this is the law. Well, it's not. And we're gonna pass this guideline here at the district level. They killed the bill in Sacramento. They've got the votes to kill bills in Sacramento, but they don't have the votes to kill the bills locally. So we're asking parents today to get involved at your local school district level. If you like the policy, then share it with your board members and ask them to adopt it. Thank you all for being here, and I look forward to the good work that we expect tonight from the Chino district. Thank you.
My name is Greg Burt. I work for the California Family Council up at State Capitol. One of our main jobs is protecting parental rights, and we were glad to be part of this coalition. One of the criticisms you're going to hear today about this particular policy is that it's illegal, right? And so that's why it was very important for us to get various legal organizations to put together memos explaining how this policy is very constitutional and legal. And so I wanted to just briefly reference some of those attorneys we talk with. Here's a quote from Constitutional Attorney Dean Broyles. He's the president of the National Center for Law and Policy. And he says this: a minor's right to privacy does not supersede the right of parents to direct the care and upbringing of their child. Minor students are not little adults, nor do they inherently possess any absolute rights to autonomy or privacy, especially from their own parents. Now here's another quote from Kevin Snyder. He is the chief counsel at the Pacific Justice Institute. And he writes, due process requirements along with California Ed Code speak against this notion that a public school can, much less be required to, conceal from parents the child's attempts at gender transition. And it goes on to say, the California Department of Education's prostinations aside, one looks in vain for a provision in Section 221.5 that authorizes school employees to engage in conduct calculated to deceive parents. And the last one I'm going to read from is from Robert Tyler. He is the president and general counsel for Advocates for Faith and Freedom, and he writes this: school districts do not violate any state or federal law by disclosing information to parents regarding their child's gender identity. The Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, this is a federal law, already affirms parents' rights to review their child's records. Right? And so I just want to close with these thoughts. You know, when a child actually changes their gender identity, it's a big deal, right? And parents should not be left in the dark when a child is already out at school. Schools should encourage kids to talk to their parents about hard topics. Schools should be facilitating good relationships with children and their parents. And you know what ruins that? Secrets and deception ruin relationships. Schools should be not be keeping secrets from parents and then mandating that teachers and educators deceive parents about the gender of their kids. This is going to destroy relationships between parents and schools. That is not in the best interest of kids. And so this policy will improve relationships, not just between kids and their parents, but parents and their schools. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gigi LaRue, and I'm here on behalf of Our Duty. Our Duty is an international nonpartisan educational outreach organization that supports families and individuals with gender-questioning children, adolescents, and young adults. We strive to offer emotional support and the most up-to-date resources to parents and caregivers seeking evidence-based therapeutic interventions. I talk to these parents every day whose children are being socially transitioned behind their back, and it's absolutely devastating to the family unit. These are not all right-wing, this isn't a political issue. This is a medical ethics issue. And the outcome of socially transitioning a child, it furthers them down a path of terrible, non-evidence-based interventions that have no research that back them up and really end up doing harm to the child. And it sets the child on that path, and it creates the parents as being the enemy when the school wedges between and tells the child that their parents aren't on their side or don't affirm them. Affirmation is not the same thing as disagreeing. You can disagree with your child and you can still love them. And that is what we try to tell parents, is that because you disagree with your child's choice of identity doesn't mean you don't love them. And the best thing you can do is to get them the best therapeutic intervention and let them grow up. And most of the time they will outgrow this, but not if people in their lives, like parents and teachers and doctors and everybody's telling them that this is something that's going to persist, because it often doesn't if they're left alone. So I think this policy is really important to ensure that parents are kept in the loop and can make those choices for their family, and not teachers and activist counselors, which is currently what's happening. So thank you to the Assembly member and President Shaw for proposing this.
Karen England, president of Capital Resource Institute, and I was the spokesperson for the referendum on AB 1266, and I want to address the disingenuous memo and guidance coming out from the California Department of Education. I would also argue there's a reason they didn't want to hear the Assemblyman's bill, and it isn't because they considered it illegal. They would have had the hearing and told him that legally they couldn't do it. They didn't want to have this conversation. There is nothing in current law that says this policy is illegal. And even in what the teachers union is putting out and what the California Department of Education is, they're referring to it as guidance. There is nowhere where they are citing a specific law, and the three laws they cite are exactly the opposite. I pulled the legislative intent on AB 1266, and every single writing on that piece of legislation assumed the parents knew the child was changing their gender and had nothing to do with school records, never mentioned school records as far as that goes once. So I want to call out the CDE, stop being disingenuous and trying to bully these school districts, own up to what the law really says, and let local level decide local level policies.
Good afternoon, Mary Barkey with the California Policy Center. And basically, Our view is that we're pro-parent. We're not anti-anything. We're always pro-parent. We don't believe there's ever a time that parents should be deceived. It's not okay to lie to parents. Parents are the first line of defense and love for their children. Nobody loves their children, cares more about their children than their parents. So we are pro-parent, we are pro-children, we are pro-student, and we're looking out for all students, all children, and all parents all the time. Thank you.
You can visit our website of this coalition, get the names of the coalition. It's caparentalrights.com. You'll find FAQs, the policy, and other resources, and we'll take questions if you have any.
I have a question. Leticia Suarez, ABC 7 News. You mentioned that there is no law. Are you worried that by doing this that lawmakers will, and either you or Mr. Essayli or someone in the city answers, that they will come out with a law, basically?
Well, I'm concerned. They're doing a lot of things to try and strip parental rights. This week has been, every year I think, what can they do more? And I'm just shocked at this year. So yes, does that concern me? But I believe the people and the polling shows it. She didn't mention, but the polling, you can go to Rasmussen and you can see all the crosstabs, all the methodology. It was a majority, over 60% polled were Democrats. And again, they believe parents should be involved. And so if they do it, I think there will be an even bigger uprising of parents saying, no, not with my kids. It takes a lot of arrogance to say, hey, a math teacher knows more about your child after meeting them for 2 months than the parent, and we're going to keep secrets from you. That's a pretty arrogant position. I don't put it past the Democrats. It concerns us, but I believe the people will rise up.
Let me answer that too. Number one, if they did pass such law, I don't believe it's constitutional, and it will be ultimately struck down. Secondly, if Democrats want to run on this issue, that they believe parents don't have a right to know what's happening with their kids, I welcome it. Run on that issue. Tell the people where you stand. They do not. They lie and they deceive and they hide behind guidance and bureaucrats. And bills like this, policies like this, are designed to smoke them out and expose their true agenda. So if they want to run on that issue, I welcome it. Bring the bills.
I'd like to make a comment too. I'm actually excited when they bring these things to the table in our current situation, because all they're doing is exposing to parents what they truly are. Most parents don't know. They don't follow the bills. As a parent advocate prior to taking the seat, I was following those bills. I was informing parents of the dangers of what's coming. So to me, when they do these things, all it's going to do is get them out of that seat in Sacramento, because us parents are rising up and we'll take their seats too, just like we did for school board.
So following the first reading today, you're going to hear from the folks here in your community, and then when will you take a vote? Like, will this be at the next meeting? What's the process?
Currently, right now, my plan is to bring it back in July. After we've heard feedback and allowed feedback. We've gotten some letters from unions and special interest groups that aren't happy, and that's fine. We'll listen to them. We'll take into consideration anything that makes sense, and that keeps the parent in the loop. But I plan on bringing it back with very minor changes, if anything, because I feel like it's a solid plan as it is. If anything, we could probably add a couple things that make it even stronger. So I plan on bringing it back in July. I want this done before school starts. I want to build back trust to parents. I feel like we have no time right now with what's happening in Sacramento, and I feel like we're on a time limit right now. So July is my goal.
I have another question. Sorry, if anyone wants to jump in here, go ahead.
There's no limit.
My question is, like, as a parent myself, I would want to know if my child is having suicidal thoughts or if there have been some harm done to him at school. Were those things not available for parents before you started discussing this issue?
Well, apparently there is some issues with things not being told to parents. I know personally, just from listening to parents, that they've had emotional issues that they found out after and the school had known prior. These are just personal accounts that were given to me. So to me, that was something that was really important to bring that back into the picture, along with behavioral issues. That was a huge thing. Sometimes a parent didn't know until their kid was getting suspended about a fight, right? That it erupted into that. But if we intervened and allowed the parent to come in before, those things probably could have been solved before it even erupted. So those things that are on the policy for Chino itself were things that I've heard, and I've heard consistently and constantly from parents that were a concern. And there were certain stories, which I'm not able to really share personal stories, but there was stories that happened and that they asked for transparency on those things.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate
you
your
all.
time.
Amazing isn't bad. Amazingly better.